Hi, Daniel. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
So you are a reindeer herder and also working for Nuti Sami Sida, a well-renowned Sami tourism company up in the northern Sweden. And we are here today to talk about Sami culture. Sami country, also known as Sapmi, stretches across the northern parts of Sweden, Norway, Finland, and the Kola Peninsula. And the Sami are one of the world's indigenous people and one of Sweden's official national minorities. How would you describe the Sami culture?
Yeah, it's Sami culture and the Sami people. We're quite proud of the heritage that we have and everything that are included in that is you live and you work with family more or less year round. And when you're saying that we are from 4 different countries, that's more or less just on the papers. Because the Sami people, you don't define yourself like Sami from Norway, Sami from Sweden, Sami from Finland and Russia, so on. It's more you are a Sami, and it doesn't really matter what the passport says from where you are. You're still one people, uh, and you want to make the best out of it and try to be aware and conserve the traditions that we have and the religions, everything like that as well.
No, I think it's a culture also not only very old, that has been there for many years, but also very close to nature. Can you just tell us a bit about that?
From the start, we are not from the first beginning. It was not that you were herding the reindeers in that way, but you were like a hunting people. You follow the reindeer, but to be able to always have the food nearby, then you started to herd them and take care of the nature as well and try to get as little impact in the nature, uh, and you're using the same routes, the same trails every year. You know where to walk. You learn it from a very young age as well.
And before you mentioned that Sami people define as one, no matter from which nationality it says in the passport. And I think the Sami heritage can also sometimes be seen in the traditional clothing. So next we have a clip where you show us a traditional reindeer herder coat.
We have some typical traditional reindeer herder clothes. And this jacket, or anorak, depending on where you come from, is made completely from reindeer skin and some fabric. And the fabric also shows where you come from a little bit. And I would say this is the warmest thing you can have on, amongst with the gloves and also the shoes, which is the best way you can be prepared for the winter.
So next, I would like to talk a little bit about the language. So culture is influenced by language, and language, on the other hand, is formed by a culture of a society. So what does the situation look like within the Sami culture that stretches over such a wide geographical range?
The language, it's not just one language. It's many different accents in it, and in Sweden we have 5 different. So if you are from the north, you speak Northern Sami, and if you are from the south, you speak South Sami. And of course, you can speak the Sami language to each other, but you're not gonna get to understand each other fully with the Sami language because it's quite different. But if you looking on the map, you see from the one village to the next, even if there are some, like you speak Northern Sami, you speak another dialect, you understand each other because you are grown up with that as well, because you hear it when you are gathering, when you're working. It's not just with your own dialect, but you're working close to others. They speak a little bit different, so you learn what the words are, the meaning of the words as well. But as you can say, it's 8 different types of Sami language all over the north. So it's quite hard to understand everything.
Of course, I understand. But I heard somewhere that there are more than 300 words for snow. Is that true?
Yeah, it's but the words by itself, it has different meanings comparing to what snow is. It's more like for the condition of the snow. If you have powder snow, if you have snow rain, if you have ice, different layers, you describe it like. So that's why it's really easy to understand when you're talking like for the lower part, what in the surface where all the food is during the winter and everything. If you get like ice layer on that one, you describe that with one word, and then you can have a soft layer, and you're building up the layers. So it's not, it's a huge help for everybody who speaks and are out and can check the snow, because you use the words like, okay, but you have this 4 or 5 kinds of layers. Really easy to understand. Okay, yeah, the reindeers, they can't find any food here because it's ice on the ground. Oh yeah, but it's soft. It's like sugar snow. Perfect, good conditions. Many things like that that describing the snow.
I think that's a wonderful indication also of what role nature plays in the culture. And as you mentioned also before, nature in general are an important part of the culture, and reindeer specifically. So as we do not have a reindeer joining us here on Zoom today, we now have a clip where you tell us more about that and where we can see one more close up as well.
And here you can see we have one of our lovely friends, and the normal for them this time of the year is to be up in the mountains, but we have some of them down here as well, and these are trained male reindeers that we're using for our excursion, which is pulling sleds. And as you can see, the antlers, they are quite big. You can also see they have like a soft skin on them, and they are very, very sensitive about them at this time of the year because they are growing quite fast. So we try not to handle them that much, and we're never grabbing the antler or anything. But you can see he knows where his antlers are, even if they are quite big. And we have here down with us at 12 reindeers at the moment, and we have a couple of more trained up in the mountains as well. They are up with the rest of the herd. About between 10 to 15,000 reindeers, and as you can see, they have a quite good fields to graze on during the summer as well, and they don't really care about us humans that much, except when we have food in our hands. And the reindeer, they also eat about 200 different things out in the nature. Everything from mushrooms to berries and to the black lichen coming up from the trees and the white moss that grows on the ground as well. And what you can see when you're getting closer to the reindeers is the marking in the ears they have. You see who owns them in that way and who the mark belongs to. So we consider the reindeer as a free spirit. We take care of it in as good as we can. But due to the climate change and everything like that, it's getting a little bit harder different time of the years as well. So we just try to give them the best life they can have. In exchange, they give us food, clothing, things like that. And that's how we try to live and not destroying as much as the nature.
So at the end of the clip, you briefly mentioned climate change, and this is of course a topic that's of high relevance to all of us, no matter where we live and what we do for a living. But today I would like to ask you, how do you see climate change impacting the Sami culture?
The impact is like you don't really see the change over 1 to 3 years. You have to go back in how it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's a huge change for me when I myself was a little boy and we could play in the snow the mid of May, like in the forest land. Today, yeah, of course you have piles when you have shoveling the snow during the entire winter, but not like a nice layer in the laying there. You need to go higher up in the mountains to see and to be able to use the snow correctly, be there. But also the biggest change and we can see like in a would say 5 to 10 year back in time is that the winters they're not as cold as they should be. They're not as dry for us anyway up here, because one day you can have minus 30 degrees, which is quite good if you get to that stage successfully, like in a slow phase. The temperature drops and then it stays like it. Perfect. But as it is today and the last couple of years, it's been, you can start the morning, you have between 30 and 40 degrees cold. Get dressed for that. And when you're coming home in the afternoon, it can be 5 degrees cold, it can be 10 degrees cold. So just during a day, you can have a temperature change in 20 to 30 degrees, which is hard for everything, for the forest, for all kind of animal, because you can't adjust that quick to the change. You need the best is if you have like 20 degrees cold for let's say 2-3 weeks, perfect, and it stays like that. It can be a little bit colder, just a little bit warmer, but when it's dropping like a roller coaster, it's really hard for everything in this. The trees, they get damaged because you can have a lot of snow laying on the treetops, and if it's powder snow, like fresh snow coming, it doesn't weigh anything. But if you go from having fresh powder snow minus 20, and during the afternoon you have close to 0 degrees, which meaning the snow start to melt a little bit and getting much heavier, and then it freezes again, and then you proceed that during a couple of weeks, days, if it's snowing, it's cold, it's getting warmer, it's damaging the nature quite a lot. and it doesn't really matter if you have a tree that are 1 meter in diameter. The snow is still gonna crack it sooner or later. So during the winters, that's how we see the biggest difference now comparing to the past. During the summers, it's a little bit drier. Sometimes of the years, and then a lot of forest fires going on, even up here in the north, that we're not that used to it, because normally we don't get those kind of temperature up here. A good summer, 2 weeks up here in the north, I would say between 20 and 30 degrees warm. That's a really, really good summer. But the last couple of years has still been close to 30 for over 3-4 weeks, which is not normal. We're not really used to it. So you can see it depending on which season it is. There are different, what do you say?
Different ways you see how it impacts, like the different parts of the
exactly. Impacts and harming the nature and everybody who's relying on it.
So thank you so much, Daniel, for giving us this insight on such a important topic. And as this conversation now soon will have to come to an end, I would like to ask you one last question. Hopefully we have some curious viewers who now want to learn more also about and maybe meet you. What can they do? What do you recommend if you are curious to learn more about Sami culture?
If you're curious, yeah, of course the internet is quite good, and depending on the situation still on, quite good to go in, do some research on the Sami people, things like that. But if you have the opportunity to come up to Jukkasjärvi and Kiruna, there we have a quite huge exhibition area, museum, outdoor museum. There you can have a guided tour with a very knowledgeable guide, and we have the reindeers there. We have traditional tipi lavu. We use them not like when we're moving, but in places that we are staying for a couple of weeks, even months during summers. There we have building houses instead. But during the summer, yeah, you try to go back to the roots as well, and you live in the labu, you cook by the open fire, and we have things like that you can learn a little bit more about. So we have on being a reindeer herder for a day. It's like a small trip that we do when you meet the reindeers and you go on the track with them as well.
That sounds wonderful. So thank you so much for sharing your advice, and thank you so much for your time today to do this talk. And of course, thank you to the viewers who have been joining us today. Please make sure to follow Daniel's advice, and also to follow us, the Embassy of Sweden in Germany, on social media for more conversations like this and a lot of other things. For example, we have an Nordic exhibition upcoming starting on October 6th called Lundos on Sami culture, taking place here at the Nordic Fellowshus in Berlin. So again, thank you very much, Daniel, and let's stay in touch.
Thank you.